My name is Rico Figliolini. I'm host of Peachtree Corners Life, and this is our prime lunchtime with Brian Johnson, the city manager. So, Brian, thank you for coming down to do this.
My pleasure.
We're going to be talking about city issues, things going on at City Council, Planning Commission, new technology, everything from autonomous vehicles to apps to development. And if you have any questions, I certainly would like you to go ahead and, like I said, you can text us through that number that I gave you, or you can put it up on Facebook on our message board. Okay? So, Brian, it's been about a month since we've spoken, and I want to be able to, there's a lot of things, and things I don't know about, I'm sure, going on, but this morning I downloaded the app, the city app.
Okay.
And that was cool. I downloaded that. I'm going through the app, and I'm like, I'm just like, it's an amazing app actually. I could see where I might make some suggestions, but overall, I think you guys did a great first step.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, right now it's kind of in the, we went live with it, but the purpose of it, in the early stages is always to solicit input from the community that uses it.
Right.
So whenever any input that you have, we would very much appreciate you letting us know how you feel about it, what we can do to improve it, because it's, the community's app. It's just really the portal for people to have an easy, convenient way to get to information.
And I went through there and I saw restaurant listings, I saw business listings, I saw the ability to do checking on parking availability, although that's coming soon. I saw
Right.
some other, the Fix It app, I saw the weather report for it. It's a great little app, although I did get a comment back from someone that tried to put it on S9.
What is that?
Must be Galaxy. They're only thing I can think of.
That phone. Well, I mean, but what operating system does that use?
Well, that could be.
Because this works for Apple or iPhone and Android.
Right, so the trick is maybe it's not.
I don't know if they're using a different Android. But that's another one. I mean, if there's enough people that use it, we want to make sure that we can make this essentially work with all of the more popular operating systems.
Right.
So
I think it might be an Android, and I think what they were saying is on the S9 it was actually crashing, but like you said, I mean, essentially.
Let us know, and we'll.
Right.
We'll reach out to our our team and say, hey, we're getting problems with this particular phone, this particular operating system. What's going on? But
in fact, on the app, there is a part on the app where you can do that, and that's what this particular person did. They went in there and they sent an email back, so they gave you some feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, on it, we've got, of course, the parking will be very timely as soon as the parking deck is finished.
Yeah.
Which you see it coming out of the ground right now in our town center.
Yeah.
We got weather here. We got resources as far as, city resources. Where there's abandoned vehicles or property maintenance stuff. We got the PC Fix It app still. So if you want to, submit. We've got upcoming events. We got all the restaurants.
Yeah.
Including, I think we got it through Google. So. Wanted to make sure that when they see the restaurant, the rating of it
is through Google.
So we didn't rate the restaurants.
Does it say that there? I wonder. Dining and entertainment.
Yeah, it's under that one. But
right.
I want to say I thought there was a disclaimer somewhere. Maybe there isn't, but we may need to put that. But I just want to make sure we didn't go through and rate. Give the restaurants here a 3, 4, 5 star,
right,
whatever.
Right. It's good to make that clear.
Yes, because I don't want somebody to be like, wait a second, the city thinks that we're only, no, that was through Google, so we just use that. We've got, city news, we got Gwinnett County Transit information, so if you wanted to do that.
Yeah. This is cool. You're not going to be able to see it from that far away, but yeah, I can, for example, if I want to take the route number 30, Lilburn, I can click on that. And actually see the map, and I can actually blow it up, and I can see all the stops along the way that I can find that's near me, and I can go that way.
And Waze is we're having to work through, because it's its own app, work through them. That's coming.
Okay.
So traffic information specific to us is coming. So, I mean, again, versus going to the website, on your phone where, you know, it could, there's just so much information on a website. When you try to use a smartphone, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah,
so, you know, apps are the popular way to take that information and scale it down in a way that's easy to see, easy to find through a smartphone, and that's what our app is doing. So a lot of this information existed, but we're trying to make it a little bit easier. And anything anybody can do to give us suggestions, please, you know, reach out and let us know. It's your app.
Absolutely. So it's a great little thing you can find. That just do a search for Corners Connect. That's the way we search on Google, I guess, Google app and the App Store. So Corners Connect. Download it, try it, give feedback. So that's cool. It's a good, nifty app. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to be checking things out and giving you guys feedback.
Please.
We do have a comment on Facebook Live. Someone wanted to know about what the city is doing to have more biking infrastructure. So I thought, let's go to that.
Sure. All right, biking infrastructure. Now, of course, there's two types of cycling. Oftentimes people don't realize what we call oftentimes the spandex crowd and the non-spandex crowd.
Okay.
To eliminate the spandex crowd, just so that you know, those are the cyclists that are, I guess the easiest way is like the Tour de France crowd.
Yeah, the hardcore.
You know, hardcore cyclists that are out on the road, and the issue with those cyclists trying to put amenities in for them is they're moving at such a high rate of speed that being on a sidewalk or having a lane is oftentimes they won't use it because they're, you know, averaging anywhere from, you know, 20 to 35 miles an hour. Or more if it's downhill. And so you would never want to be on a sidewalk where you've got all the curb cuts and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. So they're in the roadway. So when we talk about cycling, I do want to, you know, make sure that the spandex crowd, the only way that we could truly put any kind of amenity in for that crowd is to do what happened on 141. From really the Ingalls Shopping Center or the merge there, you know, where it becomes East Jones Bridge, Medlock, you know, all that Peachtree Parkway. When you head north from the Ingalls Shopping Center, there is a bike lane off to the right. There's a wider shoulder that was striped in just because when they put that section of 141, it had more right-of-way. And so you can, you know, ride on your bike in a striped bike lane. Now, it's not separated by, you know, concrete barriers or bollards or anything.
And it's not that wide, really.
It's not super wide, but that is the only way you're going to get a spandex cyclist to use a bike-centric one, because that's part of the roadway. It's just striped different. So they're able to move at a high rate of speed and not have to worry about, you know, the handicap ramps, you know, down out of sidewalks and curb cuts and all that kind of stuff.
It's funny. I noticed, I think it was, I don't know if it was Brookhaven or Buckhead, that I noticed somewhat similar. Well, they have more room, and they're planning it that way. I guess they want to be able to. They actually striped and colored the bike lane, and somewhat separated it with a concrete path, if you will.
Yeah, there's a number of ways to do it. The best way is if you have a bike path, you know, dedicated, you have it separated from the roadway, usually with, either a curb, so a car would have to come up over the curb. I mean, some of them are even like the, you know, what they call Jersey barriers or concrete barriers you see on the interstate. Sometimes it's bollards, or maybe if even the flexible, you know, we call it hit sticks, the flexible, you know, bollards, but you know, none of those are on the roadway in question. But I just, you know, when we talk about cycling, really the spandex crowd is not going to use. So we're not in a position to be able to do
that stuff.
Right.
So you're really talking more recreational biking.
Correct. We're talking about recreational, but the non-spandex crowd, the ones who may still do it for exercise, but they're not hardcore. They're not on road bikes where you're really moving. You know, you're oftentimes in, you know, mountain bikes or, you know, hybrids or even touring bikes where you're just wanting to enjoy yourself. Now, to that end then, what we're doing is, you know, we use the term multi-use trail. When we talk about the trail system that's going in. The
12-mile trail system.
Correct. We use the term multi-use because we want it and are constructing it in a way for it to be multi-use, meaning pedestrian, jogger, and cyclist.
Okay.
And when you do that, it's got to be a wider sidewalk. It's got to be wider so that you can accommodate more users than just one.
So how wide is that?
We usually try to do 12 feet.
12 feet, okay.
So, that way you can have two different directions,
Right.
and you have enough, room for cyclists to kind of go around. If there's a walker and you're coming up behind them, you have enough room to go
Right.
around.
Almost as wide as this room, actually, I think, 12 feet is.
Right. And so that's our goal. Sometimes it squeezes down, sometimes it's 10 because of right of way
Sure.
or just cost. Sometimes utility, our utility improvements are in the way, but basically that's so. To answer that question, a long way of saying our multi-use trails purpose is for there to be that almost 12 miles of trails throughout the city are there for cycling.
Okay.
And so, one of the reasons that, we're doing it is to increase the non-vehicular mobility of individuals for functional and recreational, purposes. So we're looking forward to it. We've done some of it along Tech Park.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you can tell because it's on one side of the road, you have the normal width of a sidewalk,
Yeah.
and then the other side you got the 10, I think it's 10 feet in Tech
Right.
Park. We're getting ready to execute this summer the section around the lake in Tech Park.
Oh, okay.
And so that'll be the first time that we're going to be really off of a roadway for, where you kind of feel like you're away
Now,
from
how
things.
long is it actually going to take to finish everything up on that 12-mile piece?
Well, I mean, you're probably talking, because we're doing it, we're cash flowing it, meaning the city's not going into debt to construct it.
Right.
We're putting in, I want to say it's about $1.5 million every year into that kind of stuff. But that includes right-of-way acquisition, design, all the
Right,
construction. I think you're talking about probably a 5-year program to get all of it done.
That's not bad, actually. That's fairly quick for a government to be able to.
It is, and we still have the part that of it that I'm really looking forward to is the Crooked Creek, where Crooked Creek crosses underneath Spalding, their area of the city, because the section of Spalding in between Holcomb Bridge and Winter's Chapel.
Right.
Right in the middle of it is where Crooked Creek crosses underneath. And because of Crooked Creek coming in from, other areas of the city, it's a floodplain, so you can't develop along. So
Right.
you're kind of you're away from things, which is nice. And so you're going to feel like you're on a path, away from.
Yeah.
And it's going to be linking up into the park that Sandy Springs is putting in there off of,
Riverside Drive.
No.
Oh, that's Roxbury, actually.
Yeah, no, I want to say it's not River Bottom. It'll come to me in a second, but
Okay.
and
So a new
River
park.
Exchange.
A new park they're putting out.
Yeah, they're putting in a park there, so it'll link up, and so it'll terminate into a park that Sandy Springs is constructing there. So that's the one that we're really excited about too, because again, that's kind of a trail that's going to be away from development and kind of out in the woods.
Yeah, need
so
for a
they-
whole family to be able to take their kids
Absolutely.
out and go do that. So, listen, everything can't be done by a city. And I know that some people look at using bicycles as a sustainable thing, also the spandex crowd, if you will, want to be able to have a way to, to be able to go to other places, other cities that maybe are doing it a little bit better for them, if you will.
Mhm.
So, but, in time, those things can change, I guess. But for the time being, this is a great thing to have, a multi-path 12-mile, and the connectivity that the city is doing with like the Sandy Springs Park and our parks.
Yeah, and we're also not overlooking connecting and making sure that some of our current park amenities are not going to be part of the trail.
Right.
East Jones Bridge, Simpson Wood,
Right. Yeah.
or not East, Jones Bridge Park.
Yeah, okay.
That you access through East Jones Bridge. In Simpson Wood, you've got Medlock Bridge Park and Holcomb Bridge Park, both
Sure.
access points to the Chattahoochee. And so, we're and then our system has a few trailheads, as we call it, which are locations in which somebody will be able to drive their car and have smaller parking area, but they can park their car
Okay.
and take their bike off of their car and put it
And
on the
go.
trail and go. That's part of our 12-mile trail system.
Excellent.
So, we're excited about it, but again, we've constructed some already, and we've got some of the kind of cooler portions of the trail getting ready to go in the summer.
Cool. You know, something recently happened, you know about this, because every city knows about this, and most everyone in Atlanta is dying because of it. If you're not dying literally, but, you know, the city's dying in the fact that they can't collect money payments and things. They just got back online, but this is about the malware, the ransomware cyber attack that happened I think it was last Thursday. It's about 6 days. It took 5 days for the city to get past the stuff to be able to get computers and hard drives back on. They're still having some issues. There's still data loss, but they're not really sure as far as how much data is lost. So CNN says more than 6 days after the ransomware attack shut down the city of Atlanta's online systems, officials are still struggling to keep the government running without any of their digital processes and services in place, because they still have to come back. The city on Twitter said there's no evidence to show that customer or employee data has been compromised, but who knows? The New York Times says one of the most sustained and consequential cyber attacks ever mounted against a major American city. Unbelievable that it just like that and everything could be gone. So my question is, you know, what is the city of Peachtree Corners doing? You know, certainly not as big as Atlanta, but you know, it's a city growing. How is that being treated? Since that attack, has the city looked at things? You know, what's going on there?
Well, we had looked at it well before that. It just, you know, really brings it home, you know, when Atlanta gets essentially crippled with that attack. And, you know, a couple of things, of course, being big is both good and bad. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Atlanta really, my understanding, they basically do everything in-house. So that can also be problematic if somebody does get into back a house, you know, they get through the firewall, right? Because everything is there. We do a lot of outsourced stuff. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, a lot of the data that you may consider to be sensitive to pay, like property tax bills or things like that, are not stored at the city because we use the Gwinnett County Tax Commissioner to invoice off of the property tax bills. So it's that there. Would be there. Yeah, they're the ones storing that data. But that being said, we do have some sensitive data. Business license requires some things that, you know, and so what we do is all of our effort is essentially into encrypting the, you know, the protected data for our community. Sure, somebody could get in and maybe get a hold of, you know, PDFs or work product of something we're working on, but we can always recreate that. It's not the end of the world. So our efforts are into encrypting that sensitive data to protect those who do, you know, have to give us some of it for some purpose. You know, but the thing is anymore, and, you know, we're unique in that as a new city, we were able to start off and be much more, you know, paperless, much more, you know, we can facilitate online interaction more than older cities oftentimes can that haven't gotten there yet. And when you do, I mean, the wave of the future is, you know, again, all this online stuff, city apps, doing things too. And so when your information is out there, it's out there. I mean, you know, I bought a house, you know, about a year ago, and so that Equifax, I know for sure that Equifax, you know, when they got it, I had my credit rating pulled when I went to get the mortgage, so my data's out there. I mean, it's probably you know, how many times do you hear about some store got hacked and like Target, and then you're like, well, crap, I was at Target during that time period. So, you know, we got to be careful our own, but, you know, it's an increasing risk that we're all struggling with. But, you know, we have, you know, a pretty, you know, it's as strong of a firewall and, you know, that we can get, you know, at the commercial level. Not to say that somebody at some point could target our particular firewall and maybe us and get through. I don't know. I mean, there's been some much bigger organizations with some smart people that have, you know, it's almost like, well, to be honest with you, it's almost like a criminal, if somebody wants to break into your house and steal something, there's really nothing you can do to ensure that they won't. Now, you can do things to deter them such that they may look at your house and think, you know, hey, I see, beware of dog. I see alarm stuff.
Right,
It's
right.
locked.
Right.
It has good lighting at night or
Right.
whatever. And it deters them. And they're like, maybe I ought to go down the street to another
Yeah.
house that's not as well. But if they want to,
Mm-hmm.
if they're just,
No,
for
absolutely.
sure going, they
For
will.
sure.
And the same
Yeah,
with us.
yeah.
There's people out there, if the Russian government wanted to hack the city of Peachtree Corners,
It's not-
they
and
could.
And it's not even the Russians. It could be anyone. It could be someone, it could be anyone doing it. I think the ransomware was a piddly $51,000 they wanted for to turn it back on, to release it.
Right, but they had the
You
city
know,
of Atlanta at their mercy.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just, and like you said, it happens also. I work for a group of newspapers, local papers, and one of our sites got hacked, malware. And all it did wasn't any big deal, but because we don't take purchases, it's just a reporting news site. All it did was redirect people to a different homepage, someone
Right.
else's homepage. And it didn't do it every time. So by the time we found out, it was hours into it. And we had to put up a firewall through the hosting company, and we had to clean out the malware. But so it does happen that way. And even the stuff with Equifax and other companies like Yahoo, we don't find out until a year or two later
Right.
sometimes, or 3 years later, that all of a sudden that stuff was out there. So,
And it's only going to get worse as we become more dependent on this stuff.
Yes, everything. The city of Atlanta is doing everything by paper now. Do you think that anyone remembers that to fill out
Right.
a form, or that
Or
they
wants
even
to.
had, or had the form to fill out?
Right? Yeah.
It's like-
I mean, it's
Horrible.
it's scary a little bit.
Yeah. So moving on, there's lots of things that we could talk about. Another thing I wanted to ask about, because it's been, people have complaints about the waste disposal and stuff, the collection services. I know that's going out. That's an RFP right now that ends in a couple of days.
That's correct.
Anything you could say about that?
Yeah, so what we decided at the city is we were going to issue a request for proposal for us to ultimately award an exclusive franchise for both residential and commercial waste collection. What that means is there's about 4 different scenarios that cities utilize when it comes to solid waste. You kind of break it up into the 2 sides of the waste collection world, the residential side and the commercial side.
Mm-hmm.
And some cities are wide open, both sides of the house. They say, look, you can go to whatever waste hauler you want for anything, residential or commercial. The upside is the city's not involved in billing.
Right.
It's between you as a resident and your waste hauler. The downside is you could have 20 different waste haulers operating
Right.
every day, all over the place. So that's probably the least popular of them. The most popular is oftentimes the residential side of the house has an exclusive franchise where the city says we are providing solid waste collection.
Which is the way it is now?
That is the way it is now. So
Okay.
the city is the actual provider of it,
Right.
which people often, no, you're not. Yeah, we are. We just use a waste hauler,
Right.
in the current case, Waste Pro,
Mm-hmm.
as the organization to provide the service on our behalf. I could bring it in-house. I could buy a bunch of trash trucks, hire a bunch of employees, and run it within. There are some cities that do that. City of Savannah does that.
Big enough city, right.
Right, and so, you can do that, but anyway, ours is currently that way, but the commercial side of the house is free market. So we let commercial establishments, businesses go to the
Wherever
free
they
market,
want.
wherever they want.
Okay.
And the upside, of course, is you're kind of, you can go with whoever you want.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is, again, we have currently 9 commercial waste haulers that are operating in the city. And it can be problematic in 2 cases. One is we've got trash trucks, multiple trash trucks operating citywide every day. Because even though residential is supposed to all be done on Monday, the commercial side of the house can be any day of the week. And they're on
Right.
varying, so it's not like we only have trash trucks in the city on Monday and then the rest of the week we don't have any. We have 9 waste haulers that are doing commercial. And the main downside is we've got 9 waste haulers that we have to communicate with if they're not doing the right thing. So for instance,
regulating wise.
correct, regulating. So one of the most common problems we deal with is violation of our noise ordinance by commercial waste haulers. So for instance, the forum. The
Right.
forum backs up to a residential subdivision, Amberfield.
Mm-hmm.
And the forum has multiple commercial waste haulers that empty dumpsters that apply to, like
I thought we
Trader
only had
Joe's.
one.
No.
Really?
no.
Different ones for different
Because it's a free
stores?
market. Now,
Yeah, right.
some of them use the same, so it's not like every single business has a different one, but you just get some that have one and some that have the other. Trader Joe's has their own, I know.
Okay.
Belk could. The Forum's management company could do it for a lot of small ones. I mean, they're all over the place. And so we'll get calls of, a dumpster being emptied at 5:30 in the morning. And, that emptying dumpsters is loud.
And they shouldn't be doing it.
And they
I'm
should,
sure there's
they're in
regulations,
violation
yeah.
of the noise ordinance. 7 a.m., you are not to create any unnecessary noise, man-made noise,
Mhm.
noise in the, in the purveyance of commerce
Right.
between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Or that's only when you can do it, is between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
During the week.
During the week, correct. On weekends, you're not supposed to.
Collect
correct.
commercial trash.
So we'll get a call, and we don't know which commercial waste hauler to communicate with, because it could be one of 9 that are out there.
Wow.
And these people who reach out, they're not going to know which one it is.
No, of course not.
Oftentimes
No.
they can't even see, but it's close enough to the woods that it's really
Yeah.
loud, it's waking them up. So based on that and some other things, the economy of scale or whatever, we decided, because our current contract expires December 31st of this year, of this calendar year. And so we knew we had to make a decision anyway. And so instead of just bidding out the residential waste, we're bidding out residential and commercial, and we're going to combine it. And so now the city will be providing, both under one franchise. So one waste hauler will get awarded the residential and the commercial side of the house.
And all the businesses are, how's the reaction from the business community that way?
Well, I put them on notice, that this is coming with a letter I sent out. But the reaction, it's too early, and here's why. First of all, a current contract, the city's action cannot terminate the terms of an existing contract. So let's say you owned Acme Widget Company, and 6 months ago you executed a 2-year commercial agreement with,
So it can't grant.
Acme Solid Waste. Even when this happens, the city can't come in and say, Mr. Figliolini, you've got to terminate your contract.
Well, that's only fair.
Right. So once it expires, though, of natural, causes, then you can't execute one with anybody else other than the cities at a certain time.
So when would something like this take effect? I'm just curious.
As soon as we award it, it'll go into effect.
Okay.
So, before June of this year.
Okay. So if someone wanted, I'm just thinking, if I was a business person and I wanted to.
So you're going to go ahead and on the air, go ahead and.
Just like, isn't that funny? I can't be the only one.
Theoretically,
thinking that, right?
yes,
I'm
you
just
can.
saying.
Now, but one thing to consider, though, is think about the economy of scales now.
Yeah.
That's the other part to this is the commercial, account holders here will not necessarily be displeased, because if a waste hauler has the entire commercial side of the house and the residential side,
Right.
there is an economy of
for
scale that they
sure.
can pass on
So that's-
to, their customers, in which you may have a current account with, Acme Solid Waste Hauler, and then the one that we award comes in and says, hey, if you transfer over to us, we're X dollars a month less because
Right.
we have this big contract. So I'm not so sure you're not going to see an improvement to most of them just because of that fact.
I would think so. I know it became cheaper when the city took over the residential part than what was
Correct.
being paid before, so I can see that.
So that'll be going through. So it expires the end of this month. Then the month of April, we'll be scoring the proposals, setting up interviews with our top 2 or 3.
Right.
And then I'll present to council the highest scored organization. And what that does is they won the bid then, and what that means really is they won the right to sit down and negotiate an actual contract with the city, and that's when they'll sit down with the mayor and council, and they'll try to hammer out, we'll work with them to try to hammer out the actual terms of a contract.
Wow.
And so that'll be, and we've got to have it by the end of May, because the beginning of June, we have to inform the Gwinnett County Tax Commissioner of the rate that will be on the property tax bill that goes out in October.
Yeah.
So it'll be next year's rate. Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to know it by the end of May, not only for that reason, but then the waste hauler that we get, I will tell you, we're going to require new trucks. Regardless of who it is, we're going to require new trucks.
New, like brand new?
New, like brand new. No, New York brand new, because we don't want, we're struggling right now with a lot of hydraulic fluid leaking on roads and other fluids from these trucks, and so we don't want to. So because of that, there's going to be the need for them to place an order to have the trucks made so that it's here in time and to get the carts.
Wow.
Unless it's the same, but even if it's Waste Pro got it, they have the commercial side of the house that they got to do, and the trucks are going to have to
be brand new. That's an investment on their part. So how long is this contract for?
It's usually 5 years.
5 years.
I think it's 5 years with the opportunity for one renewal.
Okay. Well, which makes sense. I mean, as a business, they're going to have brand new trucks. They have to amortize it over the years.
Absolutely. And that's what our current one was one 5-year term, and they could have automatically renewed, but council decided no.
Too many complaints about. Good. I'm glad to see the city's.
We heard.
Yes. Yeah, they're listening. The city is listening. They are doing the right thing here. Good stuff. There's a. Businesses come and businesses go. And the one that's leaving is one that I thought would eventually leave, one of the first that I thought would actually leave, and that's Earthfare. Earthfare, if anyone doesn't know by now, is going to be closing their doors on the 31st. And unfortunately, it's just, listen, you have Sprouts that opened, and my son had worked there for a couple of years, actually, as a cashier while he was in school. And that was before they opened up the Sprouts in Johns Creek, which cannibalized the sales further down the line. But Sprouts is still here, and they're doing reasonably well. They have a good facing store. It's out there and stuff. Earthfare is similar, although they may not say they are. They're somewhat similar to the idea of what Sprouts is. And they're in the back where
Office Max was,
yeah. So now they're saying they had too much difficulties with the landlord, and I guess they decided Earthfare is actually closing 2 stores here in Atlanta, and that's one of them. And the difficulty of them doing business is what they're saying.
Well, I mean, look, we've read the tea leaves on this for a while. I mean, you got a couple things. One, think about how many boutique grocery stores there are in close proximity. Mm-hmm. You got Trader Joe's, you got Earthfare, you got Sprouts, you got Whole Foods just across the Johns Creek, and you got a couple of Publix, which is not necessarily boutique, but it's a higher end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you only have so many people that shop at these kind of things, and so there was always a little bit of concern of having stretched a little bit too thin all of these. So that's we kind of, and then 2, Amazon's purchase of Whole Foods has flipped this industry completely upside down, and so Earthfare's parent organization is making changes region-wide, not just here. Or not just region, I mean, nationwide. Nationwide. Their entire service area, it's not just Atlanta, and it's not just this store.
It's going to be tough.
Now, this store was probably underperforming compared to others because, again, it was competing with so many other boutique, higher-end, grocery stores. But those reasons together are, what...
And you know what? For me, I know someone made a comment they loved the $5 sushi Wednesday. Thanks. Sushi wasn't bad. My wife liked the pizza. I do like the pizza there. Not to take out and bake, the one that they made fresh. But I got to tell you, half the times that I went, they either messed up the pizza, they would show it to me, we have a hole in it, we're going to redo it for you. Half the time they were doing that, or I'd call ahead and they wouldn't have the order got messed up somewhere, and they'd be looking at some spiral book with the order that was tucked under the counter. I'm like, how do you guys operate this way? It's just a $10 pizza I'm looking for. Literally half the time, they were just not doing it right, and it was like, if you're doing this wrong, you're doing other things wrong in this store. If I can't be the only one seeing it, So, yeah, I think they weren't doing a good job to begin with, but
you're not the first person that said that all things being equal, the service there was not on par with some of the other ones also. So I don't know. Luckily I don't really have to do much shopping.
Well, except for that, it may be a beer or some other thing.
Right, but but unfortunately, you never like to see any space go vacant for any period of time. So But.
And this one, someone pointed out that Earthfare didn't promote their business. Sure, you have to educate the brand. I know Sprouts was always at the festivals, the Peachtree Corners Festival. Sprouts was always there. Sprouts was always promoting themselves, and they were out there. I didn't see too much of that with Earthfare necessarily. So there wasn't that much community promotion. So maybe that could be another. There was no buy-in. It wasn't like they were part of the community the way you see Sprouts in some ways. So there's that. But that brings me to my other question that I saw on Nextdoor, is that people are saying, wow, that's a big space. Let's do a 37 Main there maybe. We could use a music venue. Now there was 37 Main is like one of these music venues where you bring in bands. They have food, restaurant, bar, but it's really a band venue, a music venue, concert venue. And there was one up in Johns Creek that just recently had to close because the city of Johns Creek made the rules such that they couldn't serve liquor after 11. They couldn't do certain things, essentially to combat the decibel level of the music, I guess. So some people are asking if 37 Main might not be a bad idea there because they back up to office as opposed to residential. My question would be, well, you might not have enough parking. You might be introducing a type of venue that, will create crowds in the area, less so than a festival, I don't know. But that's one of the things that people are looking at. We don't have anything like that really in the city of Peachtree Corners. Has that come up before? Is it
37?
Or not particularly that, but a concert. I mean, that space would actually be big enough, probably.
23,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's not all that big for event space, though.
No,
really.
But for a small venue like 1,000 people,
I don't even know if you'd be able to.
Maybe not, actually, right? Not seated.
I mean, if they gutted it and ripped out the deli counters and all that kind of stuff, But anyway, now, to your point, couple things. One, no, we don't currently, but, remember, part of the reason that the town center is being built is it's got a nearly 3-acre town green that's going in with a stage and a big screen for entertainment purposes. Now, that's outdoor.
Right, as opposed to indoor, correct.
Indoor, but there is that recognition by mayor and council initially when they purchased the property and decided to develop it is, hey, we want somewhere that we can have some sort of an entertainment component and a gathering space. So there is coming. That's not to say that an indoor space could not be, something that we look at. Speaking of that, now we have not sat back with the suspicion that something could be happening with Earthfare. We have been talking and are currently talking with a number of entities that could very well be interested in this space sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And I will tell you that all of the users that the city would like to potentially facilitate getting in there are ones that we feel need to and would support the concept of the town center, the gathering space, the entertainment, the destination location, where somebody goes to that for the sole purpose of going to that, not a convenience one. Is while I'm here, I'll go there, and so we're considering those uses, and we're also council's going to be at some point. I'm going to present to them some options on how we can tweak a few things within the town center area. That may only mean that triangle in between Medlock, Peachtree Parkway, and Peachtree Corner Circle.
Right.
It may also include maybe a block every direction around there, like the Forum, maybe even the Earthfare, shopping center. We'll have to figure out another way something else to call it. But
right,
and
it's actually called something else, but
right. But a proposal in which we can tweak a few of the rules related to entertainment, like serving of alcohol and happy hour and things like that, to help create more of an entertainment district.
Are you thinking more of like not necessarily Dave's and Buster's or something like that?
Well, in that location, but I'm just talking about even on a map over the entire area, is to kind of say, look, this is going to be our kind of entertainment location where we're going to allow unique things there that we wouldn't normally allow elsewhere. And for instance, if you have something out on the town green, a concert or whatever, for that event, do you allow open container between the restaurants that are there out on the town green?
Is it allowed now?
No.
No.
So you can't go inside an establishment, purchase alcohol, and then walk outside with it.
Okay.
And so those are the things pretty common.
Yeah.
Pretty common.
Can
but
you bring your own?
Well, we've talked. That's one of the things that we're going to talk about too. Is maybe there's going to be concerts in which we're going to just make it a BYOB type of thing.
Okay, and that makes sense.
It doesn't. You don't want to do that a lot because then the restaurant venues that are there would say, wait a second. But then conversely, some people could say, well, if that's more expensive if I purchase it there, or I got to wait in line, or so maybe we have a mix. But the point is that conversation needs to happen. So I'm going to be presenting to mayor and council some options in the spring, sometimes early summer, on making that area kind of our entertainment district,
downtown entertainment area,
kind of like our entertainment district. And there's a lot of cities that actually it's an entertainment district ordinance that sets out the rules and defines the boundaries of an entertainment district.
Because we don't have that right now.
That's correct.
And would that I know you're saying for there, but could that be lifted and put somewhere else even?
Well, you can have overlay districts to where, yes, you could have multiple ones.
That would help.
Certainly it would, but again, what you got to do when you get into this, you got to consider what's bordering that. So sometimes there may be a location where there's some establishments. You're like, yeah, it'd be cool, but then you look and there's residential near there or whatever. So all that's got to be kind of considered and debated all together.
So is that something that would come out to because I'm sure this would be a question. Would this be a public hearing about something like? That's an ordinance?
Yes, it would be an ordinance. So there would be and council would definitely want to discuss that with the community too. Absolutely.
That's great. I'm not surprised that it's going that way. That it makes sense to have something there, because when I was hearing about 37 Main, it was like, well, we don't even have any ordinance that would really work with that. How would you do that? Is it one-off, or then do you do what you're suggesting, which makes more sense to me?
And so we may have to create a new ordinance to facilitate some of this, or tweak a current one, which is fine. I mean,
that's cool.
I think we need to discuss it because we've got this unique development that's going to be opening here at the end of this calendar year, and we want to have some cool things happen.
So this is a great way of really finding out these things with Brian, because how would we know this without doing something like this every month, to be able to learn more things that's going on with the city. There's other things going on as well, so let's skip along and we'll get to them too. There was something about an Atlanta developer called Parkside Partners to launch a Peachtree Corners loft office project that I just saw recently in Business Journal, the Chronicle, a few days ago.
That is correct.
And I'm trying to figure out where they had one paragraph that didn't say much, so I'm hoping you could fill us in a little bit on that.
Yeah, 2 buildings from where we currently sit.
Oh, okay.
So you look out that window right there, and you can see the top of that building right there.
Right.
Just on the other side of that.
Huh.
It's a large building that used to house Honeywell.
Right.
And so Parkside Partners purchased it, and they're going to put in what are called loft offices.
How do they define that? Because they mentioned 2 or 3 buildings actually as part of that.
Yeah, well, my understanding is, and I had been briefed, I don't know, about 4 months ago that this was potentially coming, and then I saw the concept. My understanding is they're creating
Class A office too.
Oh yeah, Class A.
Cheap stuff.
but that there's going to create this courtyard in the middle of all these offices kind of that are around, and inside is this courtyard to be used by those who are in the offices that has, kind of those, perks and, things that millennials like to have.
A campus feel.
Correct, and everything. And then so I think that, the loft office, I guess, floor plan is pretty open. No ceiling tiles, open ceiling.
Okay, industrial.
Kind of open like that. And so I think that's what they mean by that.
Okay.
But Parkside Partners has actually done this and repurposed some old office space in Midtown.
Yeah, I saw some of those renderings. Beautiful.
Right. This is the first time I understand that they've stepped into suburbia. So we're pretty excited, because this is kind of a unique model, and it's one that's very popular again with the millennial crowd that's entering the workplace.
Well, even people get, I know millennials used a lot, but even for the just young companies moving in, even startups from here, could end up there.
Correct, absolutely. In fact, if we're ridiculously successful, we'll graduate from Prototype Prime and they'll move into their own space, renting at one of those things.
Yeah. So was there a timeline or anything like that?
No, there was not. Oftentimes, if you talk to the company right now, I'm sure they would have something, but until they approach us with like permit application or whatever, we don't.
There's no rezoning expected for that since it's
correct.
Office space. Okay, moving on. Peachtree Corners Library. The Gwinnett County Library System is shutting down Peachtree Corners branch here for a few days in April to put in a new HVAC. Yep. Did you hear? I know there's a lot of libraries actually going through renovations. There's one in Marietta, I think, with the Cab County, I think, that just redid their whole place. They put in a green room, they put in podcast studios. It's becoming more of a media center. Do you hear anything about that with these guys?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
All right. So maybe we'll touch.
Not to say that they aren't, but they haven't reached out to us.
All right. Cool. It tends to be that the city knows lots of things going on, but not everything that's going on with regards.
Well, some organizations have their own plans internal until the last second.
Right, and then they let you know. At the last meeting, I think the city council meeting, you guys went over a few things. I just want to bullet point through this a little bit. One of them was tattoo parlor request for a special use permit for Holcomb Bridge Road. Was that approved? That
was not.
Was not. Okay, so that's fine. Not looking to get one, so I'm good. Was there particular reasons, or it didn't fit the original zoning stuff there?
There was not any reason that those who voted against it necessarily expressed why they voted against it.
Okay, fair enough. There was also consideration for tall structure permits to allow 100-foot monopole antenna, actually at 3737 Holcomb Bridge Road. Where is that?
Near, Meadow Rue.
Meadow Rue. Okay.
Like north of where Peachtree Corner Circle crosses Holcomb Bridge.
Okay.
North of that, in between the crossing on Holcomb Bridge with Peachtree Corner Circle and Spalding. In between.
Okay. Was that approved also?
It was.
Okay. Not too much of a problem there, I guess, with that.
It's a cell phone tower, and in this case, they're not putting other equipment on it, so it is going to be a monopole, very thin in its profile.
There's also a sports field complex.
Volleyball.
Volleyball, there you go. Peachtree Industrial and Governor's Lake Drive. Did they get their approval too?
They did.
That should be another great addition, I think.
Why not?
Especially if you're involved in sports.
Organize volleyball tournaments there, absolutely.
Cities saw the elevation plans come in here from the townhomes for the town center. There's 72 or so townhomes. And they brought in elevation plans that the planning department recommended approval on. Planning commission recommended approval. I'm assuming the city went ahead and approved.
They did not.
Now why?
They tabled it because there were some aesthetic improvements that city council wanted to see.
Okay.
So they kicked it back to architect and developer and said, we need you to upgrade certain aspects of it. So it was tabled to a future meeting until they come back and work with staff and upgrade it.
Was it mainly the park-facing side, the town side, or just?
No, it was all of it. I mean, one of the points is it needs to be masonry 4 sides.
Okay.
Because, they're saying, look, there's going to be activity from all angles at the town center, and so there's really no back-of-house option like you oftentimes have. And, there were some commitments, I understand, that were made, but which predate me, going back with our partner in Fuquay Development, who they were using. And so that was brought up to say, hey, you told us certain things. And not to say that they were not trying to do it. It's just, and to mayor and council's credit, they're saying, look, we got one shot at this. We got one on the short of us taking the property, the 7 acres we just purchased, and putting more residential on it, which I do not see happening, for the record.
Okay.
But short of that, this is it as far as developable space on the town center. And so mayor and council, their credit said, we want this to be done right. We want it to be done well. We want it to, be an example for others. And so we want you to add certain things. So they'll have to come back.
They're holding their feet to the fire.
They are.
Good to hear. There were also first reads of the city code for public hearing requirements for tall structure permits. I remember going back when I was on the planning commission about the steeple at PCBC, Peachtree Corners Baptist Church. That was Gwinnett County at that time. Had to talk about that. And that was a tall structure addition. Is this similar type of deal, or what does this do?
In the process that we currently use for applications to build something, which normally require you going through the planning commission, then the city council, tall structure permits did not have the planning commission component as a mandatory step.
Oh, okay.
And of course, why cities have planning commissions and like them is because it's a group of people who get together, as you well know, generally have a unique expertise, or at least become unique experts.
Right.
And, their job is to try to vet and filter some of these projects coming through in a way that they think will benefit the community. And there's always a public hearing component. And so before it gets in front of the final adjudicating authority, in this case, the city council, planning commission is a great method for, again, for there to be discussion and work through certain conditions before it gets to council. And the tall structure permit just wasn't a part of that process, so we're making it a part of the process.
Oh, so it's a process thing, and that's good.
Yep.
I mean, listen, city council has to attend to a lot of things. It's good to have a planning commission in the middle of that to help
Correct.
do what you said. The other thing was temporary signage and home-based business signage. How'd that go?
We have, there's a thing called the home occupation. There are certain types of business activity that you can do out of your home. And our sign ordinance as it related to home occupation it needed some tweaking. We don't want it to open up to the Wild West and now somebody can get, operate out of their house and then they got these big signs. Yeah, and we don't want that. However, it is fair for somebody to say, I would like to have something to show. And this came up because, we got tax season is, currently in tax season.
Yes. Yeah.
And we have some, individuals who really only practice accounting during tax season, and they do it out of their house, so it's not and they were saying, look, I can't put anything up because the sign ordinance, so this is tweaking it to allow for a small, you meet certain conditions, a small sign on the face of the front face near the front door.
Oh, okay.
Or near the door that you'll use for your business.
Right.
So but it's regulating it, because right now there's some loopholes where people could almost put a sign out, almost like a political sign, which we don't want.
Yeah.
So we just needed to regulate it, but not let it get out of hand. So it's got to be small on houses. Yeah. It's got to be affixed to the structure. It's got to be near the door that you're using for business, not out in the yard.
That's almost like when they used to say, hang your shingle out the door. Same type of deal. Cool. There was also a resolution that the to recertify as a Georgia Certified City of Ethics. Can you explain what that means?
Georgia has a program called Certified City of Ethics. And it's just a program in which if you want to be one, there's a certain checklist that you have to have certain things in place to really take away the risk that there could be ethical, take away the ingredients for there to be ethical, issues that evolve within our operations. And, and establish certain parameters in which a council member may recuse him or herself or, certain things like that. It's boilerplate. The state kind of came up with this, but if the city wants to participate, it has to adopt certain ordinances stipulating that it's not going to do certain things or whatever. Well, the city did it 5 years when we became a city. And so after 5 years, you have to recertify. And you got to go through and you got to make sure certain things within our operating rhythm are updated, because ethics law in the state has changed since we did it initially. So every certified city of ethics has to do this. It was just our time. So it was a housekeeping measure, but council needed to adopt a resolution saying that we made all of those updates pursuant to state law.
That's cool. We have citizen representatives just like everywhere else, and they have other jobs, they're doing full-time jobs. And they may not realize that sometimes where you may be doing something and you're thinking it's okay, it could be looked at as not okay.
Correct.
And so having something like this in place makes sense. Brian, we're at close to the end of the hour, and you're a busy man because your phone's been buzzing.
Oh, this is typical. This was typical.
Which is unbelievable. And this is good. Is there, what have we missed?
Well, right now, let's, get up to date. I will say that, next month when we meet, I think I'm going to have there'll be two things that we should probably talk about. One is we may be having a kind of an exciting announcement regarding autonomous vehicles.
Oh, yes, skipped over that.
It's a little bit premature, but I think next month at this time we'll be at a position where we can. And then the other thing, too, is today is sine die. Last day of the General Assembly's legislative session.
Yeah, how'd that go? We're gonna have
we won't know because they can go till midnight tonight, and they will go to midnight tonight. So today there is a lot of shenanigans going on at the state capitol right as we speak.
I am sure. And how many pieces of legislation would affect this city because of what they do?
I won't know until, there's a number of bills that we are looking somewhat, with concern about. One of the things that happened, it's on the governor's desk, he hasn't signed it, but is taking away cities' ability to restrict building material for apartments of a certain height.
Right, that actually got to the governor's desk.
It is on the governor's desk.
Unbelievable.
Cities could have had the ability to say, if apartment is over a certain height, it has to be built out of steel instead of wood. And some lobbying interest didn't like that, so they took away. Now cities cannot regulate building material for apartments anymore.
I don't know
if the governor signs it.
Right. Let's hope he doesn't, because I just don't understand that, especially from a Republican-held legislature to put restrictions on local governments of what they can and cannot do in their own city. That's ridiculous.
Local control is always under attack when the General Assembly is in session.
But usually,
be surprised how they like to.
From your own fellow Republicans, just don't get that. But you're right. That's why you're there as lobbyists sometimes.
Yes.
To do
lobbying is 90% trying to prevent things that could hurt you from happening, and 10% trying to actually, lobby for proactive legislation. So we'll be able to talk about the things that we narrowly averted, or the things that were signed into law, and how it'll affect us.
Thank God they only have 40 days there.
Correct.
Right. Brian, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is good. So I'm going to be posting the audio as our podcast tonight as well. Sorry that wasn't feeding live. Not an issue with the prototype type podcast studio, more of my technical issue on my end. But we'll be resolving that for the next meeting. And I want to thank Prototype Prime for giving us the studio. This is a great place to be. If you're a startup, looking to be a startup with technology, hardware, this is the place to do it. They have 2 3D printers. They have an open space area. They have 40 companies that actually work out of this, 12,000 square feet. And one of the companies actually moved upstairs into...
Well, it's under renovation, but yeah, we're doubling, so we'll be at 25,000 square feet here in about 2 months.
So a lot of things going on here. It's great place to be. And if you need a podcast studio, you need mentors, you need help. They do workshops here. In fact, there's one workshop going on that's the city's holding here, I think, which is more photography, how to use photography for your business. So it's not just the incubator itself, but it's things that's going on. It's very busy, very hive-like, and it's a great place to be.
Good energy.
Yeah. So thanks for being with us, and I'll call it out, and we'll end up closing this. But be with me next week as well. We have, for the next 2 or 3 Thursdays, I believe, skipping spring break, we're going to jump into 3 weeks of political interviews with 2 Gwinnett Superior Court judge candidates and a state senator.